Hello, my name is Michael Davis, and I'm a teacher in Lincoln Unified. I know you're likely receiving tons of letters at this time and thought you might welcome a break from reading, so I've made this video to explain why we should allow for teachers to instruct both from home and at school during this time. The two main reasons we should allow teachers flexibility in deciding where to instruct can be boiled down to these. 1. Teacher safety/health concerns about returning to campuses. 2. We should be mindful about building resiliency into our classrooms and schools. Let's address reason number 1 first. This is likely to make up the lion's share of opinions or letters you are receiving on this topic, ranging from the virus isn't likely to transmit amongst teachers sequestered in classrooms, to the risk of being infected is real even if you take all the necessary precautions. I, for one, use the restroom every now and then and imagine even the most cautious of teachers may have to expose themselves to some commonly used facilities. Since none of us know how the virus may or may not spread on campus in this environment, we should attempt to accommodate teachers by allowing them to operate in the manner consistent with their level of comfort, given the risk that grouping in any manner provides. There is also a concern amongst many of us who not only typically care for students during the school day, but other vulnerable populations such as elderly parents. This unnecessary exposure to school sites, even without students, may make the task of providing support to our communities more difficult and possibly more risky. 3. We may eventually ask teachers to return to in-person instruction when it becomes advisable to do so. And anyone with an ounce of credibility and reasonableness will admit there is some amount of risk in that scenario. If we are comfortable as a district of asking teachers to take on the risk and responsibility of instructing students in person in the middle of a pandemic, it seems like there is an inherent contradiction in assuming that these same folks are not responsible enough to work from home. While these concerns are very real and should weigh on us all as we consider how to deliver instruction during this time, I would argue that they are not the main reason we should consider allowing teachers to teach from home if they want or need to. This takes us to reason number 2, which is building resiliency into our classrooms. Our community is making a great sacrifice to keep their children, and all of LUSD school district for that matter, safe. Many will continue to take on the added responsibility and/or cost of full childcare for children, making it difficult, if not impossible, for some to work and make a living. These families expect and have every right to demand from us more than just digital packet work. As was laid out in our superintendent's presentation at the board meeting a few nights ago, they should expect a qualified teacher to be providing synchronous instruction with pupil-to-peer and pupil-to-teacher interactions. This is a recognition that whatever we were able to do last spring, the bar is set far higher for us this time around, and all of us, from district admin to teachers, understand and are willing to rise to these demands from our community. This is precisely why asking teachers to solely teach from schools is unwise, as it makes us far less resilient and more vulnerable to learning interruptions at a time when we're already teaching and learning in less than optimal conditions. To prove this point, let's go through 3 very possible scenarios. Scenario 1, a teacher must quarantine. Let's assume Mr. D is a teacher in Lincoln Unified with a working spouse. It's probably a pretty common arrangement in many of our families. After Mr. D and his wife both return from work for the day, his wife receives a message from her work site stating that she may have been exposed on the job to the coronavirus and that she should get a test and quarantine until the results come back. This will mean they both must quarantine until a test can be given and/or 14 days without symptoms have passed. Mr. D is likely not going to show up to the classroom to teach, as he does not want to potentially spread the virus to his coworkers, and now his students are going to be provided digital packet work in his absence, unless we are expecting him to take sick leave and still provide synchronous interactive lessons from home. This will negatively and unnecessarily impact the learning of his students. I would actually argue this is a good scenario, considering it is just one teacher at one school site who may be gone for up to 2 weeks. Let's take a look at another possible scenario. In scenario 2, Mr. D is exposed to the coronavirus in the same way as before, only he and his wife do not find out until days later. During this time, Mr. D has been on campus, maybe in a shared facility setting, or having shared a lunch with a colleague, or having participated in a conversation with an administrator. And now there is a chance that multiple people at his school site may have been exposed. This ripple effect will not only lead to more teachers or staff needing to be tested and quarantined for up to 14 days, but also may ripple out into the community at large, a community which must bring down rates of infection to make in-person learning possible for all who desperately need it. Not to mention the negative view the community may have of returning to in-person learning if we can't even keep campuses without students safe from viral spread. The amount of learning that may be impacted in this scenario has the potential to be far greater than a single class. Though one class of students being impacted, I would argue, is too much. Finally, let's take a look at scenario 3, a sick or exposed child. In this scenario, Mr. D, who is a father of 2, returns home after work and receives a notification that his son's child care facility has closed due to an infection. His family must now quarantine until a test can be given and/or 14 days have passed. In this scenario, again, Mr. Davis will not show up to his classroom, and learning will largely consist of digital packet work rather than the instruction we would all rather have taking place. This brings us to a point brought up by a board member at our last board meeting, that while we do understand that trying to teach while providing supervision of our own children may not be optimal, I say, and this is with all due respect, reverence, and appreciation to the subs who cover my classes when I'm gone and who will help us get through this difficult time, the level of instruction I could provide while having to manage this difficult situation is likely to be far more impactful and in line with what we are expecting as a district than that of a sub taking over my class in the middle of a unit of study. While I have laid out all of the reasons why allowing teachers to work from home and schools is the right decision for our district, some may still be saying or thinking, yeah, but what if there are some teachers who aren't delivering the instruction we all expect them to be during this time? I can say as a classroom teacher myself, punishing everyone for the potential actions of the few is never a successful classroom management technique, and leads to resentment in a class that is largely doing what you are asking, save for the 1 or 2 who are not. There are ways in which we could set up a system of accountability using our admins and community feedback that would allow for interventions to take place and maybe require the return of individual teachers to the classroom if it becomes necessary. I would put it to you though, LUSD is comprised of a large majority of dedicated, passionate teachers that should such a system be agreed upon by all, it would rarely be used or needed. These are the many reasons allowing teachers to teach from home is the right choice for our district. If you are not moved by teachers' pleas for safety or potential risk to their health, consider how the community would want us to do everything we can to ensure that the gaps in student learning are bridged during this time, not widened. Thank you for your time and consideration and for all the work you are doing on behalf of our community.